right, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. We are following big story this afternoon. Major IT outages have hit industries across the world. Almost 1,400 flights are cancelled, and banking, healthcare, and shops affected. Cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike says a defect in one of its software updates hit Windows operating systems. A fix has been deployed, the company says, but admits it could be some time before systems are fully back up and running. My name is Darrell Kwao. Thanks for being with us. We are going to explore the impact of this worldwide IT chaos on businesses coming up. Don't go anywhere. And thanks for being with us, everyone. My name is Darrell Kwao. Tech disruptions across the world have hit airlines, banks, and businesses, which are scrambling to respond. Now, the outage appears to stem, at least partly, from a software update issued by a cybersecurity firm, CrowdStrike. The CEO of CrowdStrike said that the IT issue causing a global outage has been identified and that a fix has been deployed. Joining me on Zoom, our tech pundit and lead for Eyes of Africa, Henry Kobler. Good afternoon to you, Henry. What is this? What is going on?
Thank you very much, Darrell. So this is really one of the biggest outages to really hit our markets, generally a very widespread one. And it's just because of a very small update that was just deployed into most of these malware functionalities, which are sitting on most of these workstations for most of these major players and airlines and banking sectors within the industry. And so CrowdStrike, which is relatively the company in the middle of this whole issue, relatively had already identified the issue. They've issued a fix and are trying to get most of its customers to relatively reboot their systems to be in touch and come up. But generally, it's really affecting a lot of airlines, banking sectors and all of that. It's one of the biggest that has to hit up. And if you're looking at it, generally, it's even affecting their own stock values as well now.
All right, talk to me a bit more about the impact you're seeing globally.
So the impact relatively, it started even from Kotoka. If you had tried to check in yesterday at Kotoka, you would have realized that it was really much difficulty to trying to check in and have access to travels. Again, that had now started to widespread over to train stations out of the African regions, and you had also seen that payment systems had also had issues coming in from there. Banking sectors had also had some level of disruptions, and you'd realize that generally there's a very downside to payment systems, to travels, to booking systems. Generally hospitals had also had their shares. Imagine that you have an appointment with a GP in the UK and you're struggling to even see your appointment times, and the GP is struggling to sort of have conversations with you on most of its major systems. Even pharmaceuticals having issues to be able to deploy and issue prescriptions and drugs to patients. And this has basically caused a lot more in terms of waiting times at the airport, waiting times at the hospitals, banking sectors, and all of that. It's a general widespread, and individual businesses are not even speaking out that loud, but you could realize that this is a very major out with you'd having the UK government deploy its COBRA emergency team to relatively start looking at this outage and putting some level of measures to it. Microsoft would say it's not their fault because it's a third-party application that's sitting on Microsoft operating systems. And so you don't have most of Mac operators or Linux operators in the system experiencing the same, but you're generally having it with most of the systems that are sitting on Microsoft servers and Microsoft workstations.
All right, and like you mentioned, as it's been reported, a fix has been deployed. How has that progressed, and are we seeing any improvement?
Yes, some level of improvement is sort of coming in, and some businesses are told to sort of reboot their systems. But again, it's really going to take some level of time because this deployment relatively, it's a very small bug point which hits and is causing this kind of disruptions. Again, you have to understand that these disruptions are basically sitting on major workstations, and so to even put off and start most of these systems really takes a bit of protocol to get through it. Device management, network connectivities, devices are all plugging into this application. And if you had to see how endpoint relatively works, it's a whole software that's sort of sitting on major systems, and I'm thinking that it will really take a bit of time to have the effect mitigated. But I think that they're sort of very good in terms of being able to identify the problem and being able to push in the relevant measures to get it fixed.
All right, Henry, don't go anywhere. I might need you in the course of the show. But like we've been talking about, and like you heard Henry say, this has affected air travel worldwide. There are around 110,000 commercial flights scheduled across the world. As of 1100 British Standard Time, 1,390 had been cancelled, according to aviation analytics company Cerium. Aviation expert Sean Mendes is on Zoom with us this afternoon. And Sean, there's worldwide travel chaos right now. Talk to us about the global travel chaos happening right now.
Well, yes, as Henry pointed out, this is something that is affecting companies of all sizes across the world. When a major computer system such as this fails, you're stuck in a situation from an airline's perspective where you don't know who's on your flight, you don't know how much fuel you need for that flight, you don't know the flight plan you need to give to the pilots to fly, safely and so forth. So in situations like that, the only thing that airlines can really do is to cancel flights until these systems come back up. Now, the systems are beginning to come back up. We're beginning to see that happening around the world, but there is a knock-on legacy. If a flight was supposed to have left 6 hours ago and that flight had to be canceled because of this outage, that means the return flight, so say a flight from New York to Accra had to be canceled in New York. That means tomorrow's flight from Accra back to New York is going to be canceled as well. Now, so far, we've seen at Accra that there's only been one major cancellation, which has been Delta Airlines flight to New York has been canceled this morning. But that could continue to grow. We know that KLM has canceled all their long-haul flights this morning. Their flight for Accra may leave Amsterdam this afternoon. We don't know if that happens. British Airways has a bunch of cancellations. So, the knock-on effect is really what is affecting this more than just the downtime, because the downtime may be for a few hours, but the knock-on effect with passengers stranded in the wrong place and missing their connections can go on for a week even.
Yeah, well, I checked with a top official at the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority earlier in the day. That was around 10 in the morning. And as of that time, he said there was no report of a major disruption to travel here locally. But like you point out, I mean, it's just a matter of time we're going to hear about disruptions. Isn't that the case?
I think we're actually pretty insulated against much of this in Africa, because I'll be perfectly honest, African airlines are used to things such as system failures and the like. I mean, I'll tell you that, when I was running Africa World Airlines in Accra, internet failure was something that happened every few months. It was just for short periods, but there was robust backup systems to switch to pretty quickly, and everyone was trained and ready to move into them. So I think Africa may actually be a little better off from this, because for better or for worse, we're used to dealing with system failures, and whether it's Doomsor or whether it's an internet failure or whatever else, and immediately move to to backup. So I think Africa will dodge the worst part of it, but of course, flights to Africa from other parts in the world, which aren't quite that fortunate and resilient, might still, cause disruptions on the African side of things.
Fingers crossed. And so, like we've been reporting, Microsoft says the underlying cause has been fixed. Hopefully, things will return to normal. But I guess for airlines at this point, safety is paramount.
Absolutely. Airlines will start dispatching flights imminently. I expect that, just looking over there, I'm seeing a lot of flights beginning to depart from some of the major airports in the U.S. as the morning comes around in the U.S. time. But the problem is there are flights from yesterday which are canceled. So if you cancel yesterday's flight, you've got 150 passengers who you now need to rebook and put in hotels, and who are missing business meetings and funerals and engagements as such. So, that disruption doesn't go away. And right now, we're actually in the middle of summer. This is one of the busiest travel weeks of the year in both Europe and North America. So going to be it's going to cause a lot of pain for a lot of passengers and for airlines as they try to find solutions for them. But as you say, if you can't travel safely, you're better off waiting until you can.
Yeah, and talk to us about the potential impact on the finances of airlines as well.
Like many things in the aviation industry, nothing comes cheaply. As I mentioned, a single flight canceled is going to have an impact not just on the lost revenue, but in the costs of rebooking those passengers. Even if you have empty seats on tomorrow's flights, those are seats you can't sell to someone else. You're still having to pay for hotels. You're having to pay for meals. You've got crew who you're paying to sit an extra day in a hotel and on the other side of the route. You've got crew who are ready to fly and who you're paying a salary to who can't do their jobs today. So the impact is actually going to be very difficult to quantify. But I expect it to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, given the given the volume of flights that have been disrupted today. And I think it'll take us a few weeks or months before someone is actually able to put an actual figure on it. But I'd be surprised if it came in under, say, about $300 to $500 million once all the bean counting is done.
What do you think will be the conversation amongst aviation stakeholders in the aftermath of this going forward in order to avoid a repeat of this, if there can be a situation where this incident is not repeated?
I think resilience and redundancy is the answer to this. As I said, in Africa, we're used to this, where we're used to having manual backup systems when things fail. Maybe that's something that that people need to start looking at. Go back to your fundamentals. Understand that when you're checking someone, and it's not just clicking a button, it's actually registering them as a passenger on a flight, so you know what the weight is on that flight, how many people are on the flight, and so forth. So I think maybe these kind of things are not unusual. Yes, this specific one is, and the scale of this one is definitely unusual. But system failures happen regularly at some level or the other in any business, and a business that wants to have a sustainability plan and business continuity has to have plans in terms of its resilience and its redundancy of systems in place. So I think airlines probably need to look at this and say, right, these systems which we have, what is the backup? Do we have backup systems? Do we train better on manual systems? And how are we best able to, you can't control what a third party does, but you can control your response to it. So being able to control their recovery and response is probably where airlines need to take a closer look at what systems they have today and which ones stood up and which ones didn't.
The backup is very important. Shawn Mendes, we'll keep watching. Hopefully, there will be some breakthrough. Things will return to normal. But, thankfully, here locally, we are not seeing any major impact. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We'll check in with you some other time. Shawn Mendes, aviation expert there. So, as we have been reporting, the global outage IT outage has impacted the banking sector too. But how about local banks? Johnny Wise, Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, he also joins me on Zoom. And like we've been hearing, we've not seen a major impact on the airline industry locally. I guess that's the situation with banks.
Exactly the case. Since morning, we've also been monitoring the market. I'm talking to our member banks, trying to understand if there's been any instances of failures. And fortunately, we've only had one bank that said a single PC, was behaving in a manner that they thought would have maybe have a semblance of an impact of the CrowdStrike update. But they've been able to fix it. It's just one bank, one computer. So the industry is working normal. There is no cause for alarm. Customers can go to their bank or use their bank applications. But there is a potential that if there is a bank locally that relies on the third-party payment platforms that uses CrowdStrike as their endpoint security provider, and they have not been able to resuscitate their systems, then there is that possibility that an application of that bank may not be available, but so far we have not recorded anything in that regard.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about, international clearance payments on behalf of clients. How significantly do you think they may be impacted by this global IT outage?
From what we have seen, even monitoring the international banking environment, you've seen that the applications that have been significantly hit are the front-end systems, which rely on third-party applications. So if you are a bank and you run the booking system for an airline, and that system relies on Strike Crowd that provides the endpoint security for you, then that application or front end system will not be available, and the customers who routinely will be making bookings through that bank may have experienced one problem or the other. As I said, we've scanned through the entire market. We've not had any significant matter to report. As we speak, our team here are still running the calls, trying to understand whether, since the last time we picked an update, which is just about an hour ago, there's been any significant impact. And I can report confidently that we've not had that issue or any such reports.
I guess for many, the issue borders on safety. For instance, if you're using your Visa, debit or credit cards for international transactions, is there cause for concern?
Whenever there is this kind of hiccup on technology platforms, the number one advice we give to clients is, unless it is absolutely necessary, you hold on to, you have assurance that systems are up and running and there is no cause for alarm. This morning I've used my POS. It went through as usual, but it's a local transaction, and most of the local transactions switch internationally before settlement takes place. So it is possible that the transaction I did locally may have gone to Morocco, Egypt, Spain, or any other country, which may potentially be a region that has been badly hit. But the transaction went through normally. But we advise, when these things happen, that unless it is absolutely necessary, particularly using your cards on third-party e-commerce platforms that are offshore, so that you get a clearance from the technology teams that things are up and running. The information we have is Strike Crowd has confirmed that they have fixed it, and they've sent patches to their parties or agents to run them. As has been said by the technology experts that you spoke to earlier, these things take some time to bring back to life. Microsoft has also confirmed that they fixed it, but again, we are talking about huge applications, some of which are distributed worldwide. So it is possible that those fixes are available, deployment may delay, and that is why if it is not something that you must do, or it is not something that is local, we will advise that just for safety, not for any other thing, but just for your safety, maybe you can just give yourself another hour or two.
All right. Thanks for the assurances, John Owade. Thank you so much, Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks. Enjoy your weekend. I want to bring in a financial analyst, Dr. Wisdom Dogbe, who joins us from the U.S., where the impact is being felt, to discuss the impact of this tech challenge on the global financial industry. Talk to us, Dr. Dogbe, about how this outage is impacting banks around the world.
Yeah, Daryl, thank you for having me. We woke up this morning to this news of a global technology outage, which is partly due to a software update issued by the U.S. cybersecurity company, as you said. I think that a global outage of this magnitude is expected to have quite a significant impact on global financial operations. In this particular case, it's not only affecting the banks, but a lot of the airlines are also grounded, as Sean and also Henry mentioned, due to downstream communication impacts, and other businesses are impacted as well. For the banks, I believe this may have created significant operational difficulties, especially when it comes to processing transactions. The banks rely very heavily on technology infrastructure for processing different types of transactions, right? Such as wire and also other fund transfers, and simple deposits and withdrawal processing, and also loan processing. So a technology outage like this can result in delays or failures in transaction processing, affecting the smooth functioning of banking operations, which I think can be messy for other businesses and financial institutions that rely on timely and also accurate transaction processing. The impact is even more profound on the banks that have operations that are much more streamlined, right, through automation, right? And for these ones, we can expect that they had operational inefficiencies and manual workarounds, and also increased processing time for very basic banking activities, So bank customers can expect to see some service delays and also longer wait periods for even simple banking activities.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are just waking up in the U.S. We've been talking a lot about backups. So how are the banks going to manage to operate?
So, Dari, as I mentioned, the banks that are heavily automated are the ones that will face a significant impact of this global outage. And I'm certain that some transactions will have to be processed, but these have to be processed manually, which will cause significant delays and also other operational difficulties. And of course, the business of the banks is customer service. And they rely heavily on technology systems to provide various customer services, such as online banking, mobile banking, and also ATM services and other customer support. And I suspect that the way they can operate in a time of such a global outage is to proactively inform customers that certain convenient online banking tools will not be available until the outage is remediated.
Yeah, I mean, what are the ramifications, the trickle-down effects? Because you're talking about the countries, heavyweights like the US, the UK.
So the banks around the globe depend on each other, right? And other technology platforms for interbank communications, including messaging systems and payment networks and clearing systems. So the global impact of an outage like this can be quite enormous, on global financial operations, including disruption of communication channels, which should affect the smooth functioning of interbank transactions and also settlement processes and liquidity management. Daryl, I'm also concerned about the risk of data breaches and other security issues. If this is not resolved rather quickly and banking system functioning smoothly again, I think it may create opportunities for cyber criminals to exploit vulnerabilities in these banking systems and gain unauthorized access to customer information.
Right. We had John Ewa speak with us about the impact locally. Thankfully, we are yet to witness any major impact, but these are warning signs for the local banking industry, aren't they?
It is. It should certainly be a wake-up call, Daryl. But as I said earlier, it is the banks that are fully automated that will see a bigger impact. So it makes sense if the local banks that are not fully automated are now reporting significant operational challenges. But this is certainly a wake-up call. And I think to be better prepared and also mitigate the impact of said global technology outages, the banks should consider, investing heavily in robust and also resilient technology infrastructure, including backup systems and redundant data centers, and also disaster recovery plans. And I also think that the bank should prioritize cybersecurity measures to protect customer data and also prevent cyber threats during a technology outage like this one, and also staff training, right, to ensure awareness of cybersecurity best practices.
All right, Dr. Wisdom Dogwe there, who is joining us from the U.S., a financial analyst. I'm happy to have you on the marketplace. Hope to speak with you sometime soon. While he talked about cybersecurity, we want to bring in Adam Glyman, who is Chief Executive of Global Secure Solutions. Good afternoon to you, Adam. Great to speak with you this afternoon. What's your understanding of this chaos that we are seeing?
Well, I mean, Wisdom said it. It's just due to failed software updates for CrowdStrike. And these EDR systems, they are endpoint protection and they are able to do more things than a normal antivirus. For example, they can take automative prevention measures or responsive measures. And so it means that they are very, very heavily embedded within the operating system of the systems that they're installed on. So obviously something bad happened during an update. This could have been an update to maybe create a new feature or provide new functionality or just basically improve the product or whatever. And unfortunately, this is what has happened. It also tells the dark side of technology and infrastructure, where if you don't have systems in place, for example, to isolate certain systems and test them before they are rolled out to your production system, then obviously you're going to have impact on your IT and definitely on your business.
Oh, so in this situation, what do you tell clients?
It's quite an ironic and a very bizarre situation because this is a cybersecurity company that is supposed to provide protection for clients. That blue screen of death is something that you normally notice as the aftermath of a sophisticated attack. So at the end of the day, you have downtime. What clients need to understand is that you need to have systems in place to isolate your production systems or your live systems from your test systems. Functions such as like automatic updates, they should be controlled. You cannot just roll out an update on your live production environment without having some kind of a staging area to test it. I think also it is become pretty clear in this case that if you look at a large organization that has maybe between 200 to 500 endpoints, normally it means that to recover, they would have to go to each machine individually and do like a manual restart. How long is that going to take to restore or to resume business operations? So you need to find a way of automating this so that you can actually perform these kinds of management actions at scale. So I'd advise clients that they need to have the right processes and procedures to make sure that such an occurrence doesn't have an impact on their production systems. And also they need to have infrastructure or security technology tools or IT management tools that can also at scale, probably instantly do a restart of all the systems. That would save time than to manually go to each system. Imagine if you have an organization that has a spread across maybe 10 geographic regions. Does it mean that you're now going to travel to each region to restart a computer manually? Well, you can understand what I'm trying to say. It just helps to prolong the situation. So you need to invest in automated tools that can help to deploy these management activities at scale.
Okay, final question. Well, we are told that some fixes have been deployed. In situations like this, how soon do you think things will normalize?
You see, it depends because now these Windows systems, it depends on the kind of applications that are being hosted on them. It depends on the different functions, the teams that are using these. So even though the fix is available or the workaround is available, how quickly can companies follow the steps that will ensure that systems are back to an operational state? So that's why I'm saying that if companies don't have a way of automating at scale this implementation to impact all the IT assets that are spread geographically. So if I had an office in Bogatanga, another one in Navrongo, maybe an office in Burkina Faso or Cote d'Ivoire, how do we ensure that with technology, we can ensure that the remediation of this incident is done at the click of a button and it's spread across all the organizations, branches, or locations?
All right. Thank you so much, Adam Gleiman, Chief Executive, Global Secure Solutions. I appreciate your time. Final word, we have 30 seconds. Henry, lessons learned? Unmute, Henry.
Okay, so one of the things that general IT solutions would always put on the table is also always to have redundant solutions available so that you can always be able to switch whenever we're having some of these issues. Generally, backup is very essential, and so backup systems should always be in the place. Again, awareness is also key. I mean, one of the things I've realized that a lot of companies within the airline sectors and then the hospital sectors in the UK and the US are basically deploying is being able to get people to sort of understand how to get people to understand the situation and get it mitigated whilst they sort of find a fix to it. And so over-reliance on IT systems also can also be a problem, and most people should also look at that.
We've run out of time. Henry Kobler, lead ICE of Africa, appreciate your time with us this afternoon. That's our program. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. More on the global IT chaos as some international airlines operating out of Accra affected by the software disruption. Also, current unprecedented economic crisis keeps me awake at night. Ishmael Yamson, myjoyonline.com/business. Enjoy your weekend.